on a solitary morning in the post office of Oakland, Mississippi, where I went to pick up the mail every day, there was a new item that was just past the FBI's most wanted list. And it was a big, beautiful white poster with a young man in a blue uniform saluting an American flag full out in the breeze, beyond which 4 airplanes were passing. And it said, "Welcome to the United States Air Force Academy." Well, for some reason that picture burned itself into my mind, and so when I began thinking about scholarships, it just popped in. And so I went back to see my father and I said, "I want to go to the Air Force Academy." He said, "There isn't one, there's a West Point." I said, "No, sir, I'm pretty sure there is now an academy." He checked, there was. And so he applied to the academy for me. He did all of the paperwork. He got in touch with our senator from Mississippi to see if I could get a recommendation, which I did. The Air Force Academy was the true turning point in my life. It put me on a path to opportunity, especially with regard to leadership, and that they wanted to provide me with an education and a set of experiences that hopefully would induce in me, number one, leadership skills, and 2, a burning desire to be a career officer in the United States Air Force, hopefully advancing to senior ranks. That's exactly what I wanted to do, and that's exactly what I felt now well prepared to do. To end my academy experience as being the commander of the squadron that was chosen to be the best squadron there was a tremendous affirmation of where I wanted to go. I was very passionate about the Air Force mission. I was going to pilot training. I was going to Williams. I finished high enough in my class, even being a non-distinguished graduate, that I was able to get my choice, and I went to Willie down in Arizona, and off we went to our first assignment. After first going through another training program, my last day of training, as I walked into the club, I heard the voice of the President of the United States.
"It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States."
I thought, what? What's been going on? Why, I've been away from the world for 3 weeks, and that was the opening voice apprising the public that the world was in a very, very precarious position. When I later instructed the Air Force Academy, I used the Cuban Missile Crisis as the key illustration of what circumstance we can put ourselves in as humans unless we think long and carefully about introducing capabilities such as nuclear weapons, thermonuclear weapons, into our daily life. I knew the nuclear mission. I understood the arguments for and against deterrence. I mean, I had this. But what I now had an opportunity to do, because I had the clearances to do it, and the authorities, all the other things that I could now see more clearly, was that I needed to change SAC if I was going to help implement this new look of how we want our forces to be. It changed the futures of literally tens of thousands of people who would not have a job and none to go to, and so they would be retired or separated. It created a great deal of difficult, personal, as you can imagine, a lot of strife. But I knew that it was the right thing to do, and history has proved time and again it was not only the right thing to do, but it led the creation to actually a new strategic command today. The first U.S. STRATCOM was stood down a few years later, and a new one with I think 7 major roles, including cyber warfare now. And oh yes, there's the nuclear thing out here too. I feel good about what I've contributed. I think it's the best thing I could do under the circumstances, and I'm going into retirement warm-hearted and optimistic about where things like getting on with the reduction of nuclear arsenals. And the optimism is that we had a chance to do that starting with the US and Russia. And I was going to try and help that conversation along when I could. Doreen and I decided to create our own little organization called Second Chance Foundation. as a basis, as sort of a legal and financial basis, to take on the personal mission of traveling the world and trying to talk to senior leaders at every country about the risks that we have now learned with respect to how we did the global nuclear weapons business, the risks that we see continuing, mistakes that we have made and can be made again, and why it is therefore important for every country to get out of that business. In my transition after we retired from one of the most ardent supporters of the nuclear deterrence and the acquisition of forces, etc., to as responsible and dignified voice I could be, saying, but this is where we are now. These were the risks that we ran, and here are the things that we can do now to kind of keep nudging the bar a little lower. Someone on a selection rate in this late year of 2017, year 77 of my life, has made me a distinguished graduate. And I appreciate that very much, okay? And I would say that to the superintendent, to all the officials of the Association of Graduates itself, which began this program as it was back in early 2000. I suspect my friend and classmate, Randy Cabero, had a lot to do with that. And I want to say thank you, Randy, right now, personally, because this would not have happened without you, your commitment to me and what it is that you believe that I stand for. So there's no way in which I could actually come, but I am there in spirit. I want you to know that. I know that place, I know those buildings, every chairs, I know every menu. I feel like the Air Force Academy is in many respects my Air Force Academy. And it gives me a great deal of pleasure to have the Academy say back to me, well, we think you're good enough.